You're listening to AudioMag, Magazines Canada's podcast. I'm Evan Dickson, Director of Business Development at Magazines Canada, and I'm here today with Lisa Whittington-Hill, the publisher of this magazine. We're going to discuss operating a small magazine with charitable status. Thanks for joining me, Lisa.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
To start us off, why don't you tell us a little bit about this magazine?
Sure. This magazine is a bi-monthly magazine of politics, ideas, and culture. We're a national magazine, so we have readers and subscribers across Canada. We're 55 years old next year. April 2021 is our 55th birthday. So the magazine was started in 1966. It was started as this magazine is about schools. It was all about education and education issues. And then they dropped the about schools part and left us with this magazine. The magazine is published by the Red Maple Foundation, which is a registered charity. We're going to talk all about registered charities today. And the Red Maple Foundation has a mandate, an educational mandate to educate people about a variety of social issues.
Super. And we're talking about small magazines. So how many full-time staff members do you have?
So we have 2 full-time staff at this magazine. We have an editor and a publisher, and then we have an art director who works with us on contract.
Okay. And how long has this held charitable status?
So we've had it for a long time, way before my time. I want to say about 30 years. So quite a while. We've been around, like I said, for almost 55 years. So probably I want to say about 30 years.
Excellent. And well, it was before your time. Do you know why this decision was made to apply for charitable status? What are the advantages that were sought?
Sure. So I think probably at the time that they applied, one of the big advantages was to be able to issue donation receipts. So this magazine now and always throughout the magazine's history has relied on donations and support from donors. So having charitable status means that we can issue donation receipts, and that's certainly one of the benefits to people giving money to the magazine. Certainly not the only benefit, but one of the benefits.
Right. And is there a downside? Are there disadvantages?
To having charitable status, there is. Yeah. I mean, I think people often, when they're thinking magazines, when they're thinking about charitable status or applying for charitable status, they think of maybe the donation and the revenue part of it, and don't think of the fact that being a charity, there is a huge administrative component to it. That takes a significant amount of time, especially if you are a small, under-resourced organization.
So how does charitable status impact your organization on the day-to-day? Is there an extra layer of challenge for a lean team?
There is. I like the way you put that, extra layer of challenge for a lean team. I like that. There is. I mean, there's certainly things you have to do. There is, if you're going to accept donations as a registered charity, there are certain requirements in terms of receipting donations, what your tax receipts look like, how you issue them, how long you sort of keep them on your end. There is every year you have to file, this magazine, Red Maple Foundation, our charitable foundation has to file a T3010 return that takes a lot of time, that involves an audit and financial statement preparation. I'm going through the audit right now, so it's very fresh and top of mind. But there is certainly this, we have board of directors meetings. You have to keep your board minutes. There's a certain kind of documentation and administrative side of it that I think people don't take into account.
So how much would you be able to guesstimate how much time you and your staff spend making sure that you're adhering to the rules and maintaining your status?
Yeah, sure. So like I said, we go through an annual audit that is part of preparing our annual charity return. And I would say, audit prep, going through the audit with our auditor, probably 1 to 2 months out of the year. Right. And then the other record keeping throughout the year, preparing the donation receipts, making sure they meet the CRA requirements, making sure our board meeting minutes are kept, our incorporation documents, our bylaws, that kind of stuff. So there is a significant time commitment.
And what about longer term planning? How does having charitable status impact your business planning and your strategic planning?
Sure. So, I mean, I talk about sort of the administrative and the audits. Audits aren't naturally fun things, but the great thing is that you do get these donations, and people are supporting your organization, supporting your charity, and the work that it does. And certainly on our side, a significant amount of our revenue comes from donations, and so this kind of support and this kind of revenue, enables the magazine to keep publishing. I'll be honest, we wouldn't be able to publish without donations, without fundraising support, but it also enables us to develop new projects, to do new things, take on new initiatives that we wouldn't be able to do if we didn't have fundraising revenue. As a registered charity, we can access foundation support. So certainly there's this administrative aspect, but certainly the benefits of being a charity far outweigh that. I don't want to scare anyone to think it's all paperwork and record keeping all the time, because there is this amazing component where people support your organization and the work that it does.
That's great. Is there anything that you wish you'd kind of gotten a heads up about before you started working on a magazine with charitable status, or maybe that you wish somebody had considered before they made the application?
Sure. I mean, I think I've worked with magazines, not this magazine, but other small magazines that have been applying for charitable status or considering it. And I think one of the things that I think is important to keep in mind, there's a couple of things in that. Publishing a magazine is simply not enough to get charitable status. That you have to have this kind of charitable purpose, that's kind of charitable purpose as defined by CRA. So kind of I see magazines that are like, we publish a magazine and we're going to apply for charitable status. And that's just simply not enough. You have to have this kind of charitable purpose component. So at this magazine, our charitable purpose, we have this education component about educating people about social issues. So you have to have this kind of, kind of purpose beyond just publishing a magazine. And I think also a lot of times magazines, perhaps that are thinking about charitable status, think that sort of, you will apply for charitable status and you'll get charitable status and money will just kind of rain from the sky. And that's not the kind of way it is. If you're going to apply for charitable status because you want to have a fundraising component to your activities, then you have to keep in mind that you have to have things like fundraising plans, and how are you going to get donations, and how are you going to, what are your kind of fundraising activities going to be? So I think a lot of times, charitable status, that's kind of the first step to open up this whole new exciting world of fundraising and donations. And it's where I see a lot of magazines just kind of think that we'll apply for charitable status and it will kind of solve a bunch of problems.
Okay, I had a bunch of questions next about what to do when money starts raining from the sky, so I'll skip those. We've heard stories of magazines having to apply for charitable status multiple times before being accepted. Do you know, and if you don't mind sharing, do you know was this magazine successful on its first application, or was it several tries?
I'm pretty sure it was successful on its first try. I think back when this magazine got its charitable status, applied and received it, I think it was easier, perhaps at that time to get charitable status. I think especially maybe as a magazine, I don't know that there were a lot of magazines at the time that had charitable status. So I think perhaps it was an easier time back then to get it. I know, now whereas I see where I see magazines applying and having to go back and apply again is where it comes into kind of what I was talking about with the charitable purpose, like magazines kind of not having a purpose beyond just the publishing of a magazine. So I think this magazine, we were lucky in a sense in that perhaps the time we applied at was a less challenging time.
You've worked with other magazines that have applied for charitable status. Can you tell us a little about what their experience is like now when money doesn't fall from the sky right away? What are the next steps once your application is successful?
Sure. So, obviously magazines always, they've got their charitable status, like, phew, that's over now. We have that. And, the great thing is now they've been able to sort of think about and start to plan, okay, now that we have our charitable status, we can do things like start to implement fundraising plans and start to set fundraising goals and fundraising activities in place, and that could be things like, direct mail fundraising, it could be events, but they can kind of start to kind of, put those plans into place that they were kind of maybe thinking about when they were applying for charitable status. Here's all the things we could possibly do. And they're able to start to kind of put those plans in place. It's great to see donations rolling in, to see people, attending your events, that kind of thing. But, one of the great things about having charitable status and doing those fundraising activities is seeing people kind of believing in what you're doing and supporting your organization and its mission. And I think that can be really rewarding for magazines that have maybe had this slog of going through getting charitable status to finally being able to see that work happen and see that support and those donations roll in. It's a good opportunity also to say the one thing I haven't talked about yet is maintenance. And, once you get charitable status, there is that maintenance that has to happen, those annual returns that have to happen, that record keeping. So I think sort of it's important for magazines to remember that it's great to celebrate when you get charitable status, and you should definitely celebrate, but also too, you have to have that kind of ongoing maintenance, to keep your charitable status, because once you do lose charitable status or your charitable status is revoked, it can be hard to get it back. So it's important to hold on to it.
And how much should you plan your fundraising during or before the application process? Is that putting the cart before the horse, or should you have a plan in place?
I would say you should start thinking about it, because one of the things you want to think about, is if we're applying for this charitable status because we want to, undertake fundraising activities, do we as an organization have the resources to undertake those those activities once we get charitable status? So you don't want to have these big, huge, fundraising ideas and plans, but then you can't implement them. So you want to be realistic. You want to make sure you have the resources to support them. You want to make sure you can do ongoing fundraising things too. At this magazine, we're doing fundraising activities throughout the year. So you certainly want to have some planning and be thinking ahead and think, okay, if we get charitable status, do we have the resources as an organization to support it from maybe both a fundraising standpoint, from an administrative standpoint? Do we have someone that's going to be able to keep all our record keeping and keep all our CRA requirements in order? So, it's, like I said, it's good to celebrate once you get it, but, it's kind of an ongoing process of keeping and maintaining your charitable status.
And some of our listeners might be considering charitable status for their own magazines. What advice would you give somebody thinking about that?
I would say to really, familiarize yourself with what CRA is looking for. They have lots of resources on their website. There's lots of resources out there, about charitable status and applying for charitable status. And I would say to really, familiarize yourselves with those first, to think about, these things like charitable purpose. What does your organization do? What are its goals? What is its mission? And to start to kind of prepare, okay, here's what I need. What kind of time is it? It's certainly not a process that is going to happen, in a day or in a month. I would say talk to other magazines. I'm always happy to talk to magazines, talk to other magazines that have charitable status and really gather as much information as you can, because it would be great if you could go out the first time and get charitable status and not kind of have to keep going back. So I would say, really think about what you have to do. Really think about why you want it, and think about, if it's because you want to, you want to get donations, you want to be able to issue tax receipts, then think about, okay, am I going to have a big fundraising component of what I do? Because like I said, just having charitable status isn't going to solve your revenue or your money problems. It's kind of your first step towards thinking, okay, what is my fundraising plan? What kind of foundation support could I get for the activities I do? What do I want to do? That kind of thing. So it's all part of a bigger picture. And I think patience too, and realizing that it's not a process that's going to happen overnight, and that it's going to take time and it's going to take energy to do.
And so you're looking ahead to this magazine's 55th anniversary. Any special plans you can fill us in on? Let's have a sneak peek.
Sure. I'm happy to share them. So 55, which is amazing. It's amazing to make it to 55 as a small magazine in Canada. Our anniversary, we have a special 55th anniversary issue planned for our March-April 2021 issue. And we're doing the theme for the issue is resilience, which we feel is kind of a fitting theme for a magazine making it to 55 years. So we're doing a special theme issue, and we're hoping to do some events. We're not sure what our anniversary event plan will look like, given sort of what's going on in the world. But we'll certainly have some special plans. We like to celebrate anniversaries at this magazine because it's good. You know, we're always proud that we make it to 55 years. Is a big accomplishment for sure. We're really proud of it.
That's good stuff. Thank you so much for joining us today, Lisa. It's been a real pleasure speaking with you. Do you have anything you'd like to plug? What's new and exciting at this right now?
Oh my God. Okay. Well, it's our 55th anniversary next year. We're planning our anniversary issue right now. But our November-December issue will be on newsstands soon. So please pick it up. And I just want to plug again that if magazines are thinking about charitable status and they have questions or they want to chat, I'm always happy to do that.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review AudioMag on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow Magazines Canada on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Mags Canada, and on LinkedIn as Magazines Canada for more magazine news and resources. Thank you for listening, and thank you again to Lisa for joining us today. We'll be taking a little break over the winter holidays, but AudioMag will be back in February with another great episode. AudioMag is a Magazines Canada podcast produced by Messenger Bag Media. We recognize the funding of the Canadian Department of Heritage through the Canada Periodical Fund.